Our next speaker is Constanza Gomez Mont from Sea Mines.
And proudly from Mexico and Latin America, rooted. So proud that this first space was done in Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you for the invitation. I want to take a step for all of us to acknowledge something that is so important for this region and personally for me. That is understanding, first, to get my clicker. What day is today? Let's root the answer to this question in the richness of our region. I asked Lola.
En maya estamos en el Nahuatl Top, que significa el agradecimiento.
So I'll repeat there that I cut off a bit. Lola, who is here in the public, I hope you had a chance to meet her in one of the sessions. She's a wonderful, talented, indigenous Mayan leader who advocates for women and biodiversity around international spaces. I asked her today, for the Mayan culture, what does today mean, the 20th of February? And today is a special day for appreciation. Today, the 20th of February, is rooted in appreciation. So with that, I would like to invite us all to root ourselves today in this huge appreciation that for me, today, it has meant to meet talented and committed people around this, as Jess said, same goal, and to understand that there is a huge, huge array of things that we have achieved as an ecosystem for today. There is no doubt, and a testimony to that is all the sessions we were in 3 days. And that is just a small drop of everything that is happening in all bioregions around the world. And the question that got me thinking these 3 days was, does innovation for conservation need more speed? Or really, what it needs are deeper roots? That for people that work closely in territory, closely with territory leaders, including indigenous, Afro, local farmers, questioning this about speed, efficiency versus purpose is core, at least to our work that we lead in Latin America. We have been leading through Sea Mines, a work for more than 10 years on understanding what does these tools mean when we want to apply them rooted in purpose. We work today in more than 8 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. We have always thought that this region is a fertile ground for innovation. But not only innovation rooted in technology, but rather innovation rooted in the biocultural richness of including the governance layer, the cultural layer, the social level, and the equity aspect of technology-based innovation for this sector. I want to share with you 5 of our many principles based on the lessons learned, and so grateful because all of these we have learned because of our local partners we have been working for the last years. For us, we hear all the time tech for conservation. We hear AI, sensors, blockchain. Hell, I was in a panel, quantum is already on the mix. And to be honest, one of our lessons, and we take it so seriously that it has become a principle to our work, has become that technology is not only digital. Technology is also the ancestral technology. And understanding the value in traditional knowledge at the same pace and the same importance as digital technologies has rooted our work in another type of innovation and in other type of outcomes, if we want to say it as a project-based, but for us, rooted in intention of transformation. This is a picture, for example, in 1950, one of the first computers for weather forecast. 1950. Where I was talking with Quetzal, that's here in the public, another Mayan amazing leader on indigenous rights. His grandfather taught him when he was a kid how he observed ants and how much food the ants put in their little homes, their holes. And depending on this behavior and the amount of food is how much rain and when it was going to rain. And this knowledge has been there for millennia. Ancestral knowledge that has passed from generation to generation. And understanding these forms of knowledge equally, equipped with digital technologies, there is where true transformation comes, not by replacing different systems of knowledge. For example, with Wadi, again, here, an expert in data sovereignty, we've been talking about how ancestral knowledge was based on the fire, the controlling of the fire as a way to make grounds fertile, and how all of this knowledge has been lost because when there was a mix in the colonizing period of Latin America and the Caribbean, this knowledge was erased. Why? Because they saw it as a threat, as an uncontrolled technology, the fire. When we know that these type of technologies of fire were most effective for controlling fires and management, and now we're spending millions to recuperate this knowledge actively here in the Andean coast of the Amazon. And here what we see is the question of how do we value this knowledge? And what does it mean for a sector that is rooted in technology for conservation? For example, this is one of the projects we finance and support and co-build together in the Amazon, Ecuadorian Amazon, where as we know that scientific knowledge and Western knowledge requires grids to be able to know where camera traps are put. And here, based on local knowledge, as many of our projects that uses camera traps, these were set and these were decided because of the local knowledge of the community. We did not use grids. It was this ancestral knowledge that placed the camera traps, where by tons of years they know where these animals are, with 100% efficiency on understanding and capturing all of the key species in the territory with less than 50% of the resources of time and money to achieve so. Because at the end of the day, are we talking about AI? Or are we talking as well ancestral intelligence? And the question here is that the true innovation for us, it doesn't come AI to replace ancestral knowledge. Here, the true transformation is in the intersection and understanding how to value what comes from the land, from territory, from governance, from the biocultural layer of this place, of this bioregion. And the true question for us, and a deeper and sometimes painful, because these answers are not easy. How are we valuing these forms of knowledge? Because at the end of the day, this is data. And data is confirming this digital economy. It is fueling AI. It is becoming the backbone of both biotech and all the future economies of the nature markets. Are we using true forms of value? And who is determining this value? And how are we aggregating this value in the aggregated products of this life cycle of the data? And as we can see with these projects, when we base the use of modern digital technologies with the ancestral knowledge, for example, with where the camera traps are, or in Peru region, that's one of the partners that is here present, understanding from local knowledge what is the best mosquito repellent. And they're working with a huge company, global company, to understand the local knowledge, to get this repellent into the market. And the question here is, what are inclusive markets? What does it mean to value this knowledge? And how do we get it up to be able to talk with the modern, with the ancestral, based on equity, based on access, based on sovereignty? Because at the end of the day, if we don't talk about data sovereignty, we don't talk about the true potential of innovation. And for regions such as Latin America and the Caribbean, that are so rich in different cultures, but also have a huge gap in access and equity, these questions to accompany this sector of innovation for conservation are not tangent, are core to our work. We launched today, actually, we waited for this beautiful and strategic conference to launch for Latin America and the Caribbean, but with an inspiration and a potential for this to become a tool for every other region. Together at Quinray Hub, that's here in Climate Collective, Natura Teclac, Sea Mines, and a bunch of other partners. How can we build a framework that is both operational and functional on data sovereignty for value chains. And today we invite you all, for those interested in participating as co-authors and commentators from any region, to be able to figure out this together. Because if we don't get this right, there is no way we can talk about equity when we talk about the new nature markets, or to say the least, any market. Because as we know, for example, health market is based more than 50% in data that comes from the forests and rainforests. At the end of the day, for us, true innovation is not technology. For us, it's how we govern it. And that takes us to how do we build an architecture that embeds trust and equity as a core foundation for what is coming in this sector. And third, that has transformed as a principle. How do we not forget and actually center this work, this sector, this aim, this target, this collectiveness in this path that we're together, in the biocultural dimension of the work? A biocultural dimension, what is that? We have learned together because of this principle of biodirectional knowledge, that biocultural for us, for this sector, is traditional knowledge, is honoring territorial governance, is honoring cultural integrity. Because at the end of the day, technology, if we only design for KPIs, better data, faster monitoring, more efficient MRV, scalable analytics, we're missing on the true impact, in our opinion. We're missing on the opportunity to understand a transformation that is based on legitimacy, equitable distribution, and at the end of the day, justice. Not only to conserve and regenerate biodiversity, but also for the people that have sustained the conservation and that are stewarding and guarding the standing forests, ancestral knowledge, and at least these core stewards of our planet. For us at SeaMinds, it had meant building with the support of IUCN. We're one of the pilot projects for Latin America and the Caribbean that we piloted Tech for Nature. We did this in Mexico. For us, it has become, how do we transform these technologies into an interface that can talk with a multiplicity of cultures? How can we launch and wait to launch this? Actually, we're launching it now as well. Before we publish this to the world, we have to make sure this is in Mayan language. Because there's no way we can walk the talk of accessibility and inclusion if we don't mind these details. Because at the end of the day, for us, it's not a matter of building a tool. It's building an interface of possibility that is rooted in biogovernance, and that does not have efficiency as a core objective. It has purpose, biocultural purpose. For us, these type of projects, for example, this week we launched together with our partners, led by our partners, the biocredit units from the Amazonian Ecuador. Today, one of the true innovations behind this is not necessarily the unit, the credit by itself, nor the technology. Yes, we use the state-of-the-art, our partners use the state-of-the-art technology on blockchain with region networks, for example. But that's not the true innovation. The true innovation comes that this was rooted with a co-design with the partners on territory. And it is funding life plans, not only conservation action, but life plans. Because again, the question of sovereignty and how these tools become a transformative tool for sovereignty becomes one of the core questions, in our opinion, for this common goal. At the end of the day, region, another one over here, is discovering how to put fab labs and how to create forest labs in the jungle. Again, access, technology, the merging of the modern and the ancestral, the merging of possibilities. For the possibility of language. I want to use my final minute to stress for us the importance of language. And we have included this as a core principle of our work. We know the importance of programming language. We know that language shapes systems, and language is relational. And I invite us all, we won't have the time to go one by one, to check our language. Because we don't empower communities. We accompany. We don't educate communities. We learn with bidirectional flows of knowledge. We don't talk about landscapes that do not take into consideration the governance, the culture. We talk about territories. We don't talk about interventions. We talk about accompaniment, and not beneficiaries or users, but partners, because this creates agency. And I invite whoever's interested in creating a guide. We're just launching in the next few days an effort to create a guide on how to be mindful of narratives, because narratives, again, and language is a form of innovation. And lastly, let's be aware that these tools that are so transformative also have a footprint in the environment. With UNESCO, and I'll end with that, we're helping lead a toolkit for governments to be able to create the national policies for AI and environment, understanding both the negative and the positive side of these type of technologies for conservation. At the end of the day, spaces like this matter. Why? Because we're creating human infrastructure for this type of peers. And I think, personally, and that's one of the things that most excite me, and I'm so enthusiastic about this sector, it's because it's based and rooted in reciprocity and very generous spaces of co-learning. Because for us, the future of conservation will not be defined by sophisticated tools, but by the integrity of how we govern them. Thank you very much.